Joining us now, the top Republican on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Congressman Michael McCaul of Texas. Congressman, thanks for joining us. Let me get, first of all, your reaction to Brian Todd's report. What is the worst-case scenario here for Americans if Russia invades, which certainly looks possible?
Well, I think several. I think gas prices would go up. I think NATO will be weakened. But let's not forget the reason why Putin wants to invade Ukraine in the first place. The legacy, it's the breadbasket of Russia, but he wants the ports to the Black Sea. He wants to control energy out of the Black Sea. I think the biggest mistake this administration made was waiving our congressional sanctions on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, allowing Putin to complete his pipeline into Europe, making them more dependent on Russian energy than the United States. Then shutting down Keystone in the United States. You know, this whole movement against energy production in the United States, I think, has hurt us in being an energy independent nation and projecting that. So it's really intertwined, and I think the comments are correct. This is about world domination on the energy front, and Putin wants to be a dominator.
He certainly does. You know, Secretary Blinken says there's no meaningful pullback of Russian troops despite claims that are coming from the Kremlin. Are you still waiting to see if there's any drawdown, or do you believe the Russians are lying?
I think they're running a disinformation campaign. Well, on one hand, they say they want diplomacy. We're not seeing a lot of talk there. They talk about drawing down forces, de-escalating, when in fact our intelligence community and our geospatial shows that are increasing. On the border, 150,000 troops now, artillery, tanks, and planes. So I don't see any signs of de-escalation. So this is not working. And it could be a matter that we're in a window of a couple weeks now, right now, Wolf, when Putin will make this calculated decision. Is it worth it to go into Ukraine? Because
the latest Ukrainian intelligence, we're told, is that Russia doesn't have enough troops amassed to pull off a full-scale invasion. Based on everything you've heard, is that accurate?
Russia's in full frontal attack mode. They would overwhelm Ukrainian forces, starting out with the cyber attacks, shutting down their infrastructure. Then you would see the artillery, the tanks, and the planes. It would be over in a matter of 2 to 3 days, and then the invasion is complete. And then we're in a post-Ukraine world with Russia dominating. You'd see a resistance movement after that. And then you look at President Xi, who's going to be looking at Taiwan as the next step in this shoe to drop.
We're just getting word, and this just coming into the Situation Room, Congressman, from a senior U.S. official, that Russia has increased its troop presence around Ukraine by approximately an additional 7,000 troops, 7,000 in recent days. We heard the president say, President Biden say the other day that the Russians had more than 150,000. Now it looks like they're getting increasingly closer to 160,000 troops. What does that say to you?
Well, we've been told all along 100,000, then 75,000 more troops that would come in from Moscow. I think that's what we're seeing, right now. And it is deceptive. They are lying. I think it's a disinformation campaign about a de-escalation to negotiate, when in fact they're escalating. The other thing, Wolf, I find of interest is the Duma, which is their parliament, basically passed a resolution to name the Donbass region on the east part of Ukraine as an independent state. This would allow Putin to do this false flag operation, if you will. If it's an independent territory by the Russians and Ukraine somehow meddles or interferes, then there would be the pretext for an invasion by Russia. I keep your eye on that one very closely. And Putin is saying they're committing genocide against the Russian separatists in the Donbass area as well.
Yeah, that's very, very alarming. This senior U.S. official now says, and I want to be very precise, that the U.S. government now has every indication that the Russians, mean only to publicly offer to talk, make claims about de-escalation, while privately they are, quote, mobilizing for war, direct quote from the senior U.S. official. Is any talk of diplomacy from Russia, from your perspective, Congressman, a ruse at this point?
Well, I believe that the senior official you talked to is correct. And I think the foreign minister is somewhat kind of walled off from Putin's hardliner team. What we're seeing is that Putin is now surrounding himself by his most hawkish supporters in his administration. And the foreign minister is kind of off on his own talking about negotiations. That's not a good sign. And the buildup that we've never seen before on the European continent, an invasion of which we haven't seen the likes of since World War II, is quite concerning.
Yeah, but don't you think the Russians know, Putin knows, how severely punished they would be by the sanctions, not just from the U.S., but from all of Europe for all practical purposes? It would have a devastating impact on the Russian economy, and the Russians would lose thousands of casualties.
You would think so, and you'd think the threat of sanctions would deter him. I've been a proponent of sanctions before an invasion because he has been provocative. He's been aggressive on the border. This is started last March. It's gone on for almost a year now with little deterrence. And, I thought the president's speech was candid, sobering, and powerful, but, the rhetoric doesn't meet the actions, or maybe vice versa. I haven't seen deterrence really the key here, and that's what was necessary to stop Putin. He's got to make the calculation, am I willing to go through these sanctions and possibly the shutdown of Nord Stream 2?
And you say this could happen within the next 2 weeks. We'll see what happens. Congressman Michael McCaul, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks, Wolf. Thanks for having me.